The alien woman said that if I defeat her, she will obey me. She is now my slave. Cassian Varel, plenty of questionable moons in his time, some infested with acid-spitting bugs, others haunted by sentient mold colonies that tried to seduce him with the smell of cinnamon rolls, but none quite as unnerving as Luthar Minth. The place didn't hum with danger. It sat there sulking, like an ancient cat waiting for someone to step on its tail. His ship, the opposite of Grace, had lost engine pressure just as he entered the moon's atmosphere. Not that he was surprised. Cassian's ship was more parts regret than metal at this point, held together by duct tape, stubbornness, and the occasional burst of static he called engineering. When he hit the ground, it wasn't a landing so much as a mutual disagreement with gravity. Crawling out of the smoking wreck, he coughed, patted out a small fire on his pants, and took a long look at the horizon. Cracked marble towers stabbed into the sky like broken ribs. Strange glyphs shimmered faintly on every surface, casting a soft blue glow even though no sun hung overhead. The entire place radiated that peculiar silence only the very old and very dead could manage. He took 2 steps before his boots sank into a puddle of something viscous and green. It hissed. "Fantastic," he muttered. "Alien phlegm. Add that to the postcard." He should have gone back to the ship. He should have fixed the reactor coil. He should have, at the very least, stopped to eat one of the protein bricks he kept duct taped to the nav console. But no. There was a precursor vault rumored to be beneath this moon, and Cassian had a bad habit of chasing old tech like a kid after fireworks, just with a little more screaming. The city felt like it was watching him. Occasionally, walls shifted, shadows moved. Once a statue blinked. Cassian blinked back, flipped it off for good measure, and kept walking. Eventually, the twisting alleys of the ruins led him to a vast circular plaza. Cracked mosaics spread out beneath his boots, dusted in fine ash. In the center, a gaping hole descended into darkness. No stairs, no ladders, just a clean vertical drop that practically screamed bad decision. 10 credits says this is the right hole, he said to no one. He slid down using a bit of synthrope and a prayer. The air grew colder, denser, more charged. Lights flickered to life along the walls, alien script pulsing like veins beneath skin. He landed in what could only be described as an arena. Smooth black stone, a perfect circle, surrounded by viewing stands carved with images of war, sacrifice, and what looked suspiciously like interpretive dance. A voice rang out, smooth, low, and sharp enough to shave metal. "You enter sacred ground, stranger. Name your purpose." Cassian turned slowly. She stood at the far end of the arena, framed by a curtain of blue light that sizzled with energy. Tall, poised, terrifying. Her armor shimmered like liquid mercury, and her long ears, elegant, knife-edged things, twitched once as she examined him. Her eyes were a violet so deep it made his spine itch. "I'm Cassian Varel," he said. "Explorer. Sometimes scavenger. Once voted most likely to accidentally blow himself up at the Terran Academy of Reckless Curiosity. You?" She stepped forward, and the light behind her peeled back like a curtain. "I am Zephira, last sentinel of the Cytherian Bladeborn. You trespass on sacred ruins. The penalty is death. Unless," Cassian waited, "unless you're feeling generous and just want to chat over space coffee? Unless you defeat me in ritual combat, then, by ancient right, I am yours to command." Cassian opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "I have so many questions, but let's start with, are you serious?" Zephira drew her blade from her back, a 7-foot crescent of glowing alloy that purred like a predator, and took a stance that suggested she was about to separate his molecules. "You may choose your weapon," she said. Cassian looked down. He had a blaster with 3 working shots, a grav glove that worked 50% of the time, and a pocket sandwich that was technically a weapon depending on the species. He chose the grav glove. If he was going to die, he might as well go out unpredictably. The moment he stepped into the arena's center, the energy field pulsed and sealed them inside. Zephira lunged without hesitation. He ducked, barely, activating the glove and launching himself backward into a stone pillar. "Okay," he shouted, "off to a strong start." She came again. Fast, too fast. He activated the glove again mid-fall, sending a pulse of anti-gravity that flung her sideways. She flipped mid-air, landed without a sound, and charged. Cassian panicked, pointed the glove at the floor, and blasted himself upward. This time he hit the ceiling. The ceiling did not like that. Chunks of ancient stone crashed down. Dust filled the arena, and through it all Cassian landed, badly, on one knee in front of Zephira. She raised her blade, hesitated, then narrowed her eyes. "You are either very lucky or very stupid." "Why not both?" Cassian wheezed. She attacked again. Cassian, through a miraculous combination of dodging, falling, and sheer idiotic reflexes, managed to tangle her footing with his synth rope, yank it mid-step, and throw her balance. They crashed to the floor together. He landed on top of her. Her blade skittered across the stone. Zephira stared up at him, chest rising with effort. Her long ears twitched. "I yield," she said. Cassian blinked. "You what?" "I yield," she repeated. "By right, I am now yours to command." He stared at her. She glared back. There was no sign of mockery or deceit, just grim, burning defiance. "Well," he said slowly, "this is going to be weird." She sat up, pushed him off with one hand, and rose like a storm on legs. "I will follow you," she said. "But be warned, command does not mean control." Cassian brushed dust off his jacket. "Yeah, I figured. You don't strike me as the obedient type." Zephira looked him up and down with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "You are not what I expected of a conqueror." "Good," Cassian said, "because I'm not. I'm just the idiot who fell into the wrong hole." A pause. Then, to his utter surprise, the corner of her mouth twitched. "Let us see what other holes you fall into then," she said. Cassian stared. "Was that a joke?" Zephira walked past him toward the exit, ignoring the smoldering wall of collapsing circuitry behind her. He jogged to catch up. "That was totally a joke. I knew you had a sense of humor." She didn't answer, but he was almost certain her ears were twitching in amusement. And that, he figured, was a win. Cassian woke up face first in a pile of glowing moss, groaning as something in his shoulder made a sound best described as illegal in 3 solar systems. He'd meant to take a short rest after crawling out of the arena, but Zephira had insisted on pressing forward, and somewhere between her death glare and the way she held her plasma-forged sword like a toothpick, he'd agreed. Now, he was paying for it. "You drool in your sleep," Zephira said, crouching nearby and poking a charred alien device with the flat of her blade. "I do not," Cassian said, wiping his face. "That's condensation from the moss. That moss is dry. Then maybe it's excitement sweat." Zephira stood and tossed the broken device over her shoulder. It clanged against the wall with a metallic squeal. "You speak constantly. Does it serve a function, or are you simply malfunctioning?" "It keeps my brain cool," Cassian replied. "Like a ventilation system. If I don't talk, things back up, and then I start doing backflips for no reason." "I've seen you try to climb stairs," Zephira said. "You are not capable of backflips." He squinted at her. "That sounded suspiciously like an insult. I'm broadening my skills." The corridor they'd entered twisted downward at a slow incline, etched with alien runes that flickered when touched. Cassian tried once to translate one using his portable cipher tool, only for the tool to catch fire and issue an apology in 3 languages. He tossed it aside. "Maybe the runes say something helpful," he offered. "Like abandon all hope?" Zephira said. "Or free donuts past this point." They walked in silence for a while, the only sound the soft hum of energy under their boots. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. Cassian started sweating. Zephira remained unbothered, of course. Her kind probably had internal climate control. Or maybe she just didn't sweat. It felt unfair either way. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a chamber filled with what looked like alien storage pods. Dozens of sleek black cylinders stacked along the walls, each pulsing with faint blue light. Cassian stepped closer to inspect one and immediately tripped a proximity alarm. The pods lit up, humming ominously. "Cassian," Zephira said, hand on her sword. "What did you do?" "Technically," I leaned slightly. "Your incompetence has activated a defensive system. That is unfair. It's not incompetence, it's creative exploration." The first pod hissed open, revealing a humanoid machine, its body made of bone-white alloy and eyes glowing an eerie orange. It stepped out, scanning the room. Another followed, then another. Cassian backed toward Zephira, arms raised. Okay, let's all take a deep breath, assuming you guys, breathe." The machines did not appear in the mood for discussion. One pointed a finger at Cassian, and an arc of electricity shot toward him. He ducked, yelped, and scrambled behind a console. Zephira moved. She was a blur of motion, slicing through one of the constructs before it could turn. Sparks burst in every direction. Cassian peered over the console just in time to see her flip, land, and cut through two more. It was graceful, efficient, and terrifying, like watching a ballerina duel a meat grinder. Cassian took the opportunity to slam a button on the console. It hissed, then groaned, then sparked, then played what sounded like a lounge version of the Terran anthem. The robots paused. Cassian blinked. "Did I just?" "Don't ask," Zephira said, driving her blade into the final construct. Once the last machine hit the ground with a clang, the chamber fell silent again, except for the gentle warble of alien jazz. Cassian stood, brushing dust off his coat. "So, that went well." "You are a walking anomaly," Zephira muttered. "An unstable element in a delicate system." "I'll take that as a compliment." It was not. They pressed on, deeper into the structure. Cassian, feeling adventurous and slightly less likely to die, began fiddling with the consoles they passed. Most were dead or refused to interface with his gear, but a few reacted, lighting up with maps, flickering symbols, and one that offered him something called Emergency God Mode, which he wisely ignored. Zephira stopped beside a large door, touching her palm to a scanner embedded in the wall. It scanned her, then hissed open. Cassian stepped inside first and immediately tripped another trap. A cage of light slammed down around him. He sighed, arms raised, and turned to Zephira. "You've got to admit, this is getting impressive." She stared at him. "It's becoming statistically improbable. Maybe I'm just gifted. Perhaps the vault hates you. Can't blame it. I've got that effect." She deactivated the trap with a touch, and he stepped out, patting the air where the light had been. "I miss the days when vaults just had treasure and the occasional deadly spike trap," he said. "You've encountered spike traps?" "Oh yeah, I still have a scar shaped like a trident on my butt." Zephira gave him a flat look. "Why were you impaled in the butt?" "That's a story for another day." They reached a circular chamber filled with floating holographic panels. In the center was a pedestal pulsing with energy. Cassian approached, cautious, but this time, miracle of miracles, nothing exploded. He hovered his hand over the pedestal and glanced back. Zephira nodded once. He touched it. Light burst from the pedestal, casting images into the air. Ancient Cytherian glyphs, stars, planetary systems, a massive structure orbiting a black hole. Cassian reached out, rotating one of the projections. The systems were labeled, but not in any language he recognized. Zephira moved beside him, staring at the black hole image. Her voice softened. "That is the Cytherian Forge. Our people built it to protect what should never be found." Cassian raised an eyebrow. "Like this place? Worse." He paused. "You're not just here to guard old relics, are you? You're guarding a secret." Zephira didn't answer. Cassian stepped back. "Right. So, secrets, black holes, light cages, definitely an ordinary salvage run." Zephira tilted her head. "You joke because you fear." "No, I joke because it's either that or scream. And if I start screaming, I might never stop." She considered that. "Your methods are unconventional, but effective," he grinned. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in weeks." They stood in silence, the map glowing between them, pulsing slowly like a living thing. Zephira touched one of the symbols and a new pathway lit up, leading even deeper underground. Cassian cracked his knuckles. "Want to see how deep the weird rabbit hole goes?" Zephira turned toward the path. "I was born to walk it." Cassian followed, smiling despite himself. At least she hadn't tried to kill him again. Yet. Cassian stepped carefully over a cluster of blinking floor tiles, pausing only to look back at Zephira, who remained perfectly still just outside the threshold. "They're probably just lights," he said. "Harmless. Decorative." The tile beneath his foot clicked. He flinched. "Nothing happened. See?" he added. "Totally harmless." The floor exploded behind him. Zephira stepped forward, impassive, as Cassian landed in a heap, coughing out dust and holding what was left of his pride. "I stand corrected," he wheezed. "These lights are very judgmental." Zephira helped him up, brushing ash from his jacket. "You attract traps the way stars attract gravity. I prefer to think of it as an intimate relationship with bad luck," he muttered. They continued into a hallway where the walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins, throbbing in sync with an unseen heartbeat. Cassian had stopped questioning these things an hour ago. The architecture had long since gone from ominous ruins to sentient intestinal tract. He refused to comment on that. "This part of the vault is different," Zephira said, running her fingers along the wall. "Living architecture, a hybrid of organic and machine intelligence." Cassian raised a brow. You're saying we're inside a giant semi-conscious building? Yes. Great. I always wanted to get judged by walls. They passed a dormant console embedded into a pillar. Cassian reached toward it, and Zephira slapped his hand away. I didn't even touch it, he protested. I know you, she said. They entered a wide chamber, its domed ceiling covered in shifting constellations, slowly rotating, morphing, aligning in complex sequences. In the center stood a floating sphere, encased in 6 rotating rings of coppery alloy, inscribed with pulsing glyphs. Around it hovered 10 obelisks, each crackling with low energy. Cassian gave the floating orb a cautious squint. Okay, let's try to get through this one without being incinerated, electrocuted, or accidentally married to an alien queen. Zephira stepped forward. This is a precursor mind core, a neural archive. We may be able to interface with it. Cassian frowned. By interface, you mean plug in and hope we don't get mind-flayed? Yes. All right then, he sighed, pulling out a neural relay cable from his pack. Let's roll the dice. He connected his relay into a port embedded in the floor. The orb pulsed. A hum filled the air. Cassian's vision swam, and then the world bent sideways. He stood in an endless void of starlight, suspended above a sea of memory. Alien voices whispered. Fragments of language streamed past, symbols twisted into recognizable patterns. A voice deep and ancient vibrated through the space. Identity unrecognized. Inquiry, purpose of intrusion. Cassian cleared his throat. Hi, Cassian Varel, explorer, occasional mistake maker. We're looking for information, maps, data, directions to the nearest cosmic disaster I haven't yet made worse. Humor detected, processing anomaly. Companion identified, Zephira, Sentinel of Born. Cassian blinked. Wait, you recognize her? Her access level is classified. Her presence indicates critical failure of primary protocols. Emergency failsafe initiated. Cassian flailed mentally. Hold on, failsafe? What failsafe? Vault integrity compromised. Sentience override authorized. Releasing sublayer archives, transmitting to non-primary user now. A bolt of knowledge slammed into his skull. Cassian staggered. Images flashed. A celestial map leading to a station in the gravitational halo of a black hole. A structure built to contain something old, hungry, bound in energy and mathematics. The connection severed. He collapsed, gasping. Zephira caught him. What did you see? She asked. Headache. Definitely a headache, and possibly the coordinates to galactic doom. He sat up slowly, rubbing his temples. There's something at the edge of known space. Something you guys built a vault to hide, and the system we're in now? Just the warning light. Zephira's expression darkened. The Forge, she said. Cassian blinked. You mentioned that before? Big, scary, floating in a black hole? It was our last creation, she said. A prison built to contain the Echo. The Echo? A consciousness, fragmented, viral. It infects systems, minds, languages. It speaks in ideas. It corrupts logic. It was not born, it emerged. Cassian rubbed his face. So basically, evil Wi-Fi? Zephira's eyes narrowed. It annihilated 9 civilizations before we caged it. Oh, Cassian said. So super evil Wi-Fi. They returned to the main corridor. The door they had entered through had sealed shut behind them, but another opened ahead, revealing a spiral ramp descending deeper. Of course, Cassian muttered. Deeper is always the answer. Zephira led the way, silent now. Cassian followed, still woozy from the mind download. He tried humming to distract himself. Zephira glanced back. What is that sound? Old Earth tune. It's called Don't Stop Believin'. I now believe your species should not be trusted with music. They reached a chamber that looked more like a control center. Rows of interfaces, glowing consoles, transparent screens with shifting schematics. At the center stood a circular dais with a translucent projection of the Forge, surrounded by coordinates, energy fields, and what Cassian could only assume were very angry red warning symbols. Zephira circled the display. The AI here is still linked to the Forge's outer shell. If we could sever the connection, a klaxon blared. Cassian jumped. I didn't touch anything. This time I swear. Warning, said a new voice. Crisper, synthetic, emotionless. Unauthorized presence detected. Sentinel Zephira is in violation of isolation protocol. Termination order issued. Panels slid open in the walls. 6 drones rose, sleek, armed, glowing. Cassian sighed. Why is everything always trying to kill us? Because you keep opening doors, Zephira said, drawing her blade. The first drone fired. Cassian dove behind a console, pulled out his blaster, and managed to disable the drone by accidentally ricocheting a shot into its core. That was so deliberate, he declared. Zephira took out 3 more with surgical precision, but 2 remained. One now locked on Cassian. He aimed, misfired. The blaster sputtered. "Oh no," he whispered. "You're doing this now?" The drone charged. Zephira vaulted over a console, tackled it midair, and jammed her blade through its processor. Cassian blinked. "Okay, that was hot." Zephira rolled her eyes. "You are wounded? Just emotionally." The synthetic voice returned. "Defense systems compromised. Switching to lockdown mode. All vault pathways now sealed." Doors slammed shut around them. Cassian turned in a slow circle. "So, we're trapped, with angry walls, possibly cursed data, and a schedule to keep." Zephira looked at the last console, fingers moving swiftly. "We may still have an exit." "Great," Cassian said. "Tell me it involves teleportation and snacks." Zephira pulled a lever. A hatch opened beneath them. They fell. Cassian screamed. Zephira did not. "Seriously," he shouted mid-drop. "You're not even a little concerned." "I trust the system," she said. "Lady, the system hates me. I've been electrocuted, mind-blasted, and nearly vaporized." They hit a gravity dampener. Cassian bounced once, flopped over, and groaned. Zephira stood. "We've reached the transit level. From here, we find the elevator core." Cassian lay there. "I'm beginning to think you're enjoying this." She stepped over him, smirking. "You are useful, in the way that explosives are useful." Cassian groaned again, dragging himself to his feet. "Next time," he muttered. "I'm picking the vacation spot." Cassian stared at the elevator core like it had insulted his haircut. "This," he said, pointing at the towering shaft that disappeared into shadow above and below, "is not an elevator. This is a vertical death tunnel. Elevators have buttons, music, walls." Zephira examined the control pedestal beside the shaft. "This is Cytherian technology. It uses magnetic lift pulses. Controlled thought navigates it." "So no walls?" "No." "And we just stand in the middle?" "Yes." Cassian looked at the empty circular platform hovering over a glowing pit. "I want it on record that I object to every part of this," he said, stepping on. The platform responded with a soft hum. Zephira joined him. The moment her feet touched the surface, they shot upward with a smooth whoosh that absolutely did not agree with Cassian's stomach. "This feels unnatural," he yelled over the wind. "I prefer my death slow and full of poor decisions." "You've already had both," Zephira replied. As they rose through the shaft, faint blue projections flickered past them, ghosts of memories embedded in the architecture, moments in history, Cytherian warriors in formation, a great structure orbiting a black hole, a council, an argument, a final vote. "Those are echoes," Zephira said, "residual consciousness fragments stored in the lift stream." Cassian stared as one projection zoomed toward them, a tall Cytherian male shouting something in alien dialect before phasing into static. "Lift stream ghosts," Cassian muttered. "Great, just what I needed. Haunted mass transit." They slowed as the platform reached its destination, the humming ceasing as they stepped into a chamber lit by soft white glow panels. It was quiet. Too quiet, which in Cassian's experience meant either peace or ambush. "Where are we now?" he asked, scanning the room. "The bridge," Zephira said, "a control hub for the vault's deeper functions. Also our way out." The room activated as they entered, consoles rising, lights intensifying, a large central table projecting a rotating image of the forge again, this time pulsing red. Cassian approached the console and gestured. "All right, universe, what now?" The hologram zoomed in on the forge. A thin line of energy connected it to the moon they stood on, flickering with instability. Zephira's jaw tightened. "The containment tether is weakening." "I'm going to need a much friendlier explanation," Cassian said. "The forge is no longer fully sealed. Its influence is spreading. This vault is the last node keeping the tether intact. Meaning if this place goes, the forge awakens. The echo escapes." Cassian groaned. "Why does every ancient megastructure come with a side order of existential doom?" Zephira moved to another console and began entering commands. "I can seal the tether manually, but doing so from this side will sever the vault permanently." "Wait, sever how?" "The exit will be gone. We would be cut off." Cassian blinks. "And stranded?" "Yes. Trapped on a haunted moon with no food, no music, and only each other for company." Zephira raised an eyebrow. "Do you object to my company?" Cassian hesitated. "I object to the permanent part. I was hoping to leave here with slightly fewer curses and a slightly higher chance of survival. Zephira didn't answer. Instead, she brought up another screen, a schematic of the containment process. There were 3 nodes, one deep in the moon's core, one within the forge, and one where they now stood. All 3 must be stabilized, she said. This one is damaged. Cassian scratched his head. So we fix it? We reroute control to your neural interface. Cassian stared at her. You want to plug my brain into the ancient alien energy tether, holding the universe together with duct tape and ancient magic? Yes, he opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Sure, what's the worst that could happen? Your consciousness may temporarily destabilize. You may hallucinate, experience chrono-shifted memories, possibly attract the Echo's attention. Anything not on the table? Zephira thought a moment. No, Cassian sighed. Let's do it before I get smart. He sat in the central chair. Zephira connected a neural relay to the back of his neck. The console pulsed. Cassian's vision blurred. The room melted into light. He was floating. Not in the fun way, in the way that made his spine think he was being turned into spaghetti. Images flashed, memories that weren't his. Zephira as a child, sparring with instructors. A battle in orbit. The death of a world, then himself. But older, wiser, standing on a ship with a crew he didn't recognize. Who are these people, he muttered. Potential futures, a voice whispered. Okay, nope, not doing ghost narrators again. He focused, reached for the tether visualized in his mind, a twisting rope of energy fraying at the edges. He pushed, pain flared. The Echo's voice hissed in his ear, 1,000 syllables at once. He gritted his teeth and thought of something solid, something absurd. Pancakes. Terran pancakes with synth maple syrup. The image held. The tether snapped into clarity. He anchored it, and then he fell back into himself, gasping. Zephira stood over him. You succeeded. Cassian blinked. Of course I did. I'm amazing. Are my ears bleeding? A little. He stood, wobbled, and leaned against her. All right, he said. Now how do we not die? Zephira brought up a final projection. A tunnel lit up, leading to a chamber labeled only with one symbol. Departure. Cassian squinted. That's either an escape pod or a disintegration booth. We'll find out, Zephira said. They followed the path through a corridor pulsing with faint violet light. As they approached the final door, Cassian reached into his jacket and pulled out a small Terran sticker, shiny, with the image of a cartoon chicken in a spacesuit, and slapped it on the nearest console. Zephira blinked. What was that? My signature, he said. No one explores an ancient death trap without leaving a calling card. The door opened. Inside, a sleek pod awaited, designed for 2. Barely. Cassian slid into the seat and patted the console. Please don't explode. Zephira settled beside him. You inspire confidence, Cassian grinned. It's part of the charm. The pod launched. Silence. Stars. Cassian exhaled. Well, he said, at least we didn't get vaporized. Yet, Zephira replied. He glanced over. Her long ears twitched as she watched the stars streak past. Are we okay? He asked. She met his eyes. We are alive. That is more than I expected. Good, he said, because I've got about 100 more questions and no idea where we're going. Zephira leaned back. Then ask. We have time. Cassian smiled. Time, stars, and one very strange partnership. Cassian sat in the cramped pod, poking the navigation panel with a stylus he found wedged under the seat. It beeped once, then shut off. Okay, so we're flying blind, he said, but at least the seats are mildly less awful than I expected. Zephira didn't look up from the display she'd conjured in the air using her gauntlet. We're headed toward neutral space. There's a relay station on the edge of the Varel expanse. If the pod doesn't disintegrate before then? Such confidence. I'm reassured. You shouldn't be. Cassian leaned back, listening to the low hum of the pod's engines. They were stable, which surprised him. Usually, by this point, something would have caught fire, possibly him. He drummed his fingers on his knees. So we're alive. We've escaped a haunted vault, sealed off a malevolent cosmic consciousness, and I didn't even drop my blaster down a gravity well. I'm calling this a win. Zephira glanced at him. You did, however, destroy half a ruin, insult 3 alien cultures via misunderstanding, and fall asleep on a console that activated the combat drones. I like to think of those as character-building experiences. There was a long pause. I've been thinking, Cassian said, about what happens next. Not just the whole possibly getting arrested thing for trespassing in a protected system. I mean, You. This. Zephira turned toward him. What do you expect? I don't know, he admitted. You swore yourself to me after I tripped over my own feet and accidentally won a fight. Now you're technically free. I destroyed the vault core, severed the tether, and you've got no more duty left. I chose to stay, she said. Not because of the vow, because I wanted to. Cassian blinked. That sounds dangerously close to a compliment. I regret it already, he smiled. Okay, he said. Then how about this? We keep going. Together. No orders, no commands, just partners. Preferably in less life-threatening environments. I am unfamiliar with non-life-threatening environments. Then this'll be educational. First stop, the relay station. Second stop, I don't know, a beach planet. One where things don't explode when I walk into the room. She looked at him. That sounds boring. We'll bring explosives, problem solved. A signal chimed on the console. Cassian leaned forward. Local beacon. We're approaching the relay station. Looks like someone's awake over there. Zephira nodded. Then prepare your best diplomatic lies. Lies? I don't lie. I just creatively reinterpret reality. They docked without incident, which worried Cassian more than he admitted. The station was small, old, held together by maintenance bots and sheer resentment. An ancient hologram flickered to life in the airlock as they entered, projecting a cheerful woman with half-missing facial data and a voice 2 octaves too low. Welcome to Relay Point 70 Delta. Please enjoy your stay and avoid antagonizing the cleaning drones. They are armed. Cassian raised a hand. Noted. I'd like to report a small issue involving an ancient superweapon, a viral intelligence, and a possible galactic threat averted by sheer dumb luck. The hologram buzzed. Please remain still. A representative will speak with you shortly. In the meantime, would you like a sandwich? Cassian looked at Zephira. That's the best greeting I've had in weeks. They waited in the lounge, which smelled faintly of burnt toast and regret. A Federation envoy arrived half an hour later, looking deeply confused as Cassian recounted their journey with animated gestures, multiple references to highly spontaneous heroism, and a drawing of the forge that looked suspiciously like a pineapple. Zephira spoke little, only clarifying Cassian's wilder claims with short, blunt corrections that somehow made everything sound worse. Eventually, the envoy left to report to someone higher up the chain. Probably someone with a spreadsheet labeled, "What to do when morons save the galaxy." Cassian slumped onto a bench. Well, he said, that could have gone worse. Zephira crossed her arms. They may imprison us for unauthorized access. Or they'll give us medals. It really depends on how bored their board of directors is. She sat beside him. What will you do if they release you? He thought about it. I don't know. I always figured I'd keep bouncing from job to job until something exploded under me. But now, he looked at her. I think I'd rather build something that lasts. Something not entirely insane. Maybe a crew. Maybe a ship that doesn't scream when I open the door. Zephira's ears twitched. You are evolving. Yeah, he said. It's weird. I don't like it. The station's AI announced a transmission. The envoy returned with a data pad. Your actions have been reviewed. While your methods were unconventional and possibly illegal, the containment of the Echo is being classified as a critical success. You're free to go, pending further debriefing, and probably a lot of paperwork. Cassian stood. No prison? No prison. No medal? No medal. But sandwich? The envoy stared. One sandwich. Cassian looked at Zephira. I'll take it. They left the station an hour later, aboard a borrowed scout ship with functional engines and actual seat cushions. Cassian took the pilot's chair, humming softly as he charted a course. Zephira leaned beside him. Where now? He smiled. Anywhere. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and wild. Behind them, a sealed vault, a defeated Echo, and 100 bad decisions survived by accident. Ahead, a future full of questionable choices, unpredictable plans, and if Cassian had any say, at least one beach planet with no murderous architecture. He glanced at Zephira. So, ever thought about co-captaining a ship with a hopeless Terran? She tilted her head. Do I get to name it? That depends. Is the name terrifying? Yes. Then, absolutely. They launched into the stars, two warriors from opposite worlds, bound not by vows or conquest, but by shared chaos, earned trust, and the absurd miracle of survival. The end?